Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making an easy, delicious chocolate chip banana bread. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 350. We want it nice and hot. And most importantly, take a look at your bananas. This is banana bread, and I would say this is gonna be a delicious banana to eat. This is almost ripe enough to use for baking, but we want it to be like a stinky banana that's like super mushy, like the opposite of what I'd ever want to eat. There's a solution for that though. So we're gonna pop these into the oven, 350 for about 10 minutes or until they blacken up. When they bake in the oven, it'll break them down, kind of like break those sugars down and make them perfect for baking. Plop those onto a baking sheet. You want 3 bananas, about 1.5 cups. I'm baking 4 just because these are a little bit small. In you go. While my bananas are baking up, it's time to get the dry ingredients together. So into a large bowl, I want 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. That's 210 grams. To puff things up, a teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of baking soda. I also want half a teaspoon of sea salt for a bit of contrast. And in my recipes, I always like to use sea salt because it's a nice, mellow, salty flavor. Salt can be totally different, by the way. Like if you're using Diamond brand salt, for whatever reason, it's like half as salty as normal salt. So be forewarned. And if you're using an iodized salt, it's a very harsh salt flavor. So go with sea salt, you'll be happy. Grab a whisk. Successfully. And we're just gonna whisk this up and set it aside. This recipe is so easy, and it's one of my son Lachlan's favorite things to make on the weekend. I always like to do baking activities, so like we'll make pizza together, we'll do like simple breads like this, and the kids can take it in their snack box to school and they get to enjoy it and tell their friends like I made this, and it's a nice moment. But this recipe is just plain delicious, so it's a must make. Set this aside. Our scale is done, and now we're gonna grab our stand mixer and whip our butter until it is nice and fluffy. You could definitely do this with an electric hand mixer though if you wanted to. Now into the bowl of your stand mixer, fitted with a paddle attachment or a big bowl if you're using an electric mixer, you want half a cup or 113 grams of beautiful room temperature butter. And when I say room temperature, I can bend the stick, it's not breaking, and it yields to the touch fairly easy. It resists a bit though. So room temperature can be anything from melting to ice cold depending on where and when you are. But in a recipe, when it says that, imagine the butter is like yielding to the touch, but you have to like press. You have to press down a bit. If it's too cold, it just won't fluff up. And if it's too hot, it just won't fluff up. And you want that air packed in so your bread is beautiful and light and amazing. Beat this on medium-high for about 3 minutes until it is light and fluffy. You'll see the color change, it'll become lighter, and the texture will be like so whipped and cloudy. It makes a big difference, and when people's recipes don't turn out, it's either mismeasuring the flour, or the butter is not whipped up properly. Those are the 2 main culprits, that and overmixing. 3 minutes. Just a few minutes later, and I hope you can tell, this is like a butter cloud. Just take a look how pretty this is. Whipped and beautiful, you can see from the texture, it's amazing. Scrape your bowl down, you don't want to have any kind of weird, like solid butter pieces in this mixture at all. And now I have to tell you about the sugar. You have a choice. In the recipe, I'm just calling for sugar. I want 150 grams or 3/4 of a cup. If you use plain sugar, like granulated sugar, it'll be delicious. If you use brown sugar, I think it'll be even more delicious. And brown sugar just has that moisture from the molasses, and it'll keep the bread moister for longer. So in a butter-based bread, especially, you want to have some little extra trick to help you out. And in this case, it's the brown sugar. I'm going to add about half of brown sugar. So I'm using about 80 grams of brown sugar, and for the rest, it'll be granulated. I like using granulated sugar as well because it gives you like a fluffier texture with the butter. In my opinion, I do want to control the moisture in this bread because the bananas have a ton of water. Take a look at your brown sugar and look for any giant lumps. Those are not acceptable. And break those up. Your mixer is strong, it can do a lot of work, but you just don't want to have like a giant sugar lump for it to deal with. It's not fun. Those don't mix really well, and then what happens is, if that's in your batter, the sugar just melts and you have this weird, empty, sweet void. Add that to the butter, I'm gonna mix this up for about 3 more minutes until it is, again, light and fluffy. And yes, I will be scraping the bowl down at least 1 more time. I need 2 large eggs for this. I do not need any egg shells. So in a separate bowl, just crack your eggs and make sure there's no shards of shell hanging around. That would not be tasty. Add the eggs in 1 at a time. On the top of this, soupy and ridiculous. On the bottom, it is so compacted. This is why we're scraping the bowl down. If you're using an electric hand mixer and you can rake the bowl with your beaters, you won't have to scrape down at all or nearly as much. Last egg in, along with 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And by the way, if you wanted to add any flavors to this, go for it. You could add in cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, cardamom, anything your heart desires will be nice in this. Make this recipe your own. If it was cinnamon, I would go with a teaspoon. Everything else, I would do 1/4 of a teaspoon to start and then see how you like that and adjust next time. This is nice and mixed, and look at my bananas. What a difference a couple minutes made. If you could feel this, they feel like pudding now, which is the perfect consistency for a banana bread. So just a little bit of time in the oven is all you need. I let them cool down on the countertop for a few minutes after they came out because you do not want scalding hot bananas. They should be room temperature-ish. That goes there. Grab your bananas, slice them open, and then just pop that into your measuring cup. Ooh, kind of gross, kind of cool. They smell really good too. Like a proper baking banana should. We don't need close-ups of this happening, do we? It's giving science fiction. You can see though that I actually used my 4 bananas and I'll have just enough. When you bake the bananas, they totally lose a lot of their structure, so it'll be slightly less in volume. And all I need to mash them up is just a knife or a fork because they're so gooey. Love that sound. The baking torture show. Okay. Everything's all ready. With the mixer on low, add your flour in gradually. Mix until the flour has almost disappeared. I'll still see some streaks, and in fact, I'm just gonna use my spatula and kind of bring this together a bit and scrape the bowl down. Over-mixing is, I would say, the number 2 culprit with just making a baked good not go right. You'll activate the flour's gluten, which is a protein that can kind of give you that wonderful bready texture with a chew and a stretch, which we love in breads. But even though this is called a bread, it's basically cake. So we don't wanna have any kind of a chewy, tough texture. I wanna have it to be light and fluffy and melt in your mouth. I still see some streaks of flour in here. That's fine. Oops. Well, you know, we all make mistakes. So I was supposed to add the bananas in first before the dry ingredients, but I've done this before because I make mistakes. I'm just gonna add them in right now and fold them in. It's totally fine. At this point, it's a stir together batter and you can't screw it up, no matter how hard you try. So mix that in just like that. That's all you needed. Maybe 10 seconds of mixing. Okay. Reserve a handful of chocolate chips for the top. The rest we're gonna add in right now while mixing on low. Grab a 9x5" loaf pan, give it a couple sprays. You could also butter and flour it if you prefer. And just before you add your batter in, just give it one last pass with your spatula and make sure the bottom looks like the top. No hidden streaks. Pour the batter into your prepared loaf pan. Get in there. Level the surface with the spatula. And sprinkle the top with your reserved chocolate chips. My bread's ready to go into the oven 60 minutes at 350, and then I'll show you how golden and delicious it looks. In you go. Give your bread a slice, and just like that, it's ready to enjoy. That is pillowy soft, pure banana flavor, studded with gooey chocolate throughout. It's just a match made in heaven. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, and if you like this video, check out my quick bread playlist.